who we were, and who we're destined to become are all reflections of the stories we tell, of gods and devils from tales of the heart to those of fear and foreboding. Stories shape us in the world we live in. Myths, folk tales, and even religious parables all define our cultures and beliefs. In each episode of Faith and Fear, we will dip our toes into the comparative narratives spanning the globe, considering the concepts and archetypes common to us all. Enle Shalom and Prazir. Hello and peace. It's a pleasure. Thanks for following me down the rabbit hole once again on my journey to better understand the stories and beliefs that shape us. Sincerely, welcome. As always, you've been missed. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. Frank Herbert, Dune. Welcome back. It's been a while. I know it's been a long year or more for many, yet we bravely, faithfully continue moving forward. For that, I'm proud of you. If you've been able to do nothing but maintain your physical and mental health, it's okay. Sometimes that's all we can do. Life isn't always easy, but then I don't believe it's supposed to be. We live, love, suffer, and learn. Hopefully, we not only learn, but grow. So much about life is beyond our authority, and we often fear those things we are unable to control. We fear the unknown. We fear change. Sometimes we're afraid of fear itself. So today, since we're entering the month of fear, what better time to discuss its nature as well as its significance? I'm pretty sure that we all know what fear is. I mean, we all know what it means to be afraid. Even if we can't quite put it into words, we've all experienced a sensation at some point in our life. Some of us are able to manage our fears far better than others. Some of us even enjoy the feeling and seek it out in our entertainment. So why fear? What is it, and why is it important to the human experience? First, let us define a few things. As delineated by the American Psychological Association, fear is a basic intense emotion aroused by the detection of imminent threat, involving an immediate alarm reaction that mobilizes the organism by triggering a set of physiological changes. These include rapid heartbeat, redirection of blood flow, and from the periphery toward the gut, tensing of the muscles, and a general mobilization of the organism to take action. Anxiety is an emotion characterized by apprehension and somatic, i.e. bodily, symptoms of tension in which an individual anticipates impending danger, catastrophe, or misfortune. The body often mobilizes itself to meet the perceived threat. Muscles become tense, breathing is faster, and the heart beats more rapidly. The primary differences between fear and anxiety can be described as anxiety being future-oriented and fear being present-oriented. In other words, fear tends to be concerned with an immediate, identifiable threat, while anxiety deals with potential, less direct, and more spread out concerns. Coming from the Greek word phobos, literally meaning fear or horror, a phobia is persistent and irrational fear of a specific situation, object, or activity, i.e. heights, dogs, water, blood, driving, flying, which is consequently either strenuously avoided or endured with marked distress. When we talk about fear, it's important to discuss the psychological origins and influences. Psychology today describes fear as a vital response to physical and emotional danger that has been pivotal throughout human evolution, but especially in ancient times when men and women regularly face life or death situations. Fear has been crucial to our survival, helping us to assess potential threats. It's a vital tool for perceiving danger, and despite its occasional inconvenience, continues to be so. Modern experiences of fear can range from societal interactions such as first date, public speaking, traveling, being afraid of falling, being afraid of failing a test, or duties at work. Fear of failure is a huge one for many of us, causing major increases in chronic stress. So why do we feel fear? One theory holds that humanity is naturally prone to certain fears, such as those that posed a danger to our ancestors. Things like poisonous insects and reptiles, the potential to fall, especially from fatal heights, drowning, and being exposed to disease or illness. Then, of course, there's the likely possibility of pre-existing trauma, possibly something having happened at an early age, even if it was indirectly. Maybe you witnessed a car accident in person or on TV that ends up bringing about extreme anxiety towards traveling much later in life. Certain personality traits, such as an adamant need to exert control, can result in developing heightened anxiety, leading to a fear response. Any combination of how someone was raised, overprotective parents, for example, medical ailments like depression, PTSD, and trauma from experiences of abuse can culminate in various fears and phobias. There are also a number of triggers that appear to be universal, like seeing something unexpected heading straight for you, or doing anything outside the realm of natural human abilities. For example, flying again, or facing extreme conditions such as vast heights, deep waters, or being anywhere that's miles away from civilization. Most of us have an inherent ability to assess a given situation and its level of danger to us. We get a gut feeling, sometimes even having a physical response, and in the worst cases, the impulse to fight or fly. Some people have been able to not only overcome this sensation, but are drawn to the thrills they provide. We should also take into account that there are specific triggers developed as a part of the cultures, even subcultures we've grown up in. Landlocked and desert communities might be prone to fears of water and drowning, while those who live exclusively among people who look as they do and believe the same things they do might be prone to xenophobia, the fear and dislike of customs, cultures, and basically anyone who is different. Consider those of certain groups and what they might find particularly threatening. Here in the US, despite the arguments of some, many minority groups, be it the African American, Jewish, Latinx, or even LGBTQ+ community, commonly consider the swastika and Confederate flags threatening. Historically speaking, places and people bearing those symbols were anything but safe. The fear and apprehension they invoke have been cultivated over decades of generational experiences and trauma, through emotional terrorism as well as physical violence. Despite the oversaturation and misuse of the word across social media, the textbook definition of the term trigger, according to the American Psychological Association, is a stimulus that elicits a reaction. For example, an event could be a trigger for a memory of a past experience and an accompanying state of emotional arousal or distress. Our emotions are often linked to our personal experiences, whether they're happiness, anger, excitement, or fear. Our responses to certain stimuli attached to specific events are capable of triggering any one of the corresponding emotions, regardless of our previous state of mind. However, emotional triggers are most often connected with some form of post-traumatic stress. It is important to know what your specific triggers are and to learn the best way for you to cope with them. Become aware of your mental and physical reactions to any given situation so that you learn what evokes a strong emotional response for you. I am not qualified to give anyone advice on dealing with their emotional triggers. However, I will say that it is important for us to all prioritize our mental health and emotional well-being. I also wanted to go over a few common as well as a few not so common phobias. There are a lot of very specific ones out there. Those who are burdened with a particular phobia typically experience intense fear, resulting in extreme distress, sometimes to the point of it affecting their day-to-day life. As referenced on verywellmind.com, the American Psychiatric Association classifies phobias into 3 categories: social phobias, agoraphobia, and specific phobias. Among those, common phobias can be broken down into 4 major groups. First is the fear of animals and insects, such as arachnophobia, the fear of spiders; cynophobia, the fear of dogs; elorophobia or gotophobia, the fear of cats; entomophobia, the fear of insects; equinophobia, the fear of horses; ophidiophobia, the fear of snakes; ornithophobia, the fear of birds. The second is the fear of one's natural environment, such as acrophobia, fear of heights; astrophobia, fear of thunder and lightning; dendrophobia, fear of trees; thalassophobia, fear of tornadoes and hurricanes; or nyctophobia, fear of the dark. Third, we have the fear of blood, illness, and medical treatment, with phobias including hemophobia, fear of blood; hypochondria, fear of illness; latrophobia, fear of doctors; mesophobia, a fear of dirt and germs; trypanophobia, a fear of needles and injections. Lastly, we have situational fears, made up of agoraphobia, fear of open spaces or crowds; atychiophobia, fear of failure; katagelophobia, fear of being ridiculed; claustrophobia, fear of confined spaces; coulrophobia, fear of clowns; pedophobia, fear of children. And that's only to name a few. There are many, many more, some far less common than others, but I feel that this is enough to give you a somewhat better understanding over the range of phobias out there. Moving on, I briefly want to explore a love of fear in entertainment. Some people love to be terrified, and over the years, haunted houses, horror novels, and horror films have continued to remain relatively popular. This has even expanded to a fascination with serial killers and true crime. So what exactly is the horror genre? The horror genre can be as broad and varied as any other genre, containing a number of subcategories including but not limited to dark fantasy, horror comedy, psychological horror, science fiction horror, supernatural horror, and slasher films, just to name a few. Essentially, the horror genre is any type of fictional narrative intended to evoke a fear response. Sometimes it's meant to completely terrify and disgust, other times to casually frighten or cause unease. So why do people enjoy being scared? Frankly, a large part of it is chemical. When we believe ourselves to be in danger, there are chemicals in the brain, such as endorphins and dopamine, that produce a euphoric state, heightening some of our senses. Even though we know what we're experiencing isn't real, there is a real biological response being triggered whenever we take part in horror-related entertainment and activities. The human brain is very adaptive, but often in the heat of the moment, it can't always distinguish between what is a made-up threat and what isn't. The part of us that knows we're safe in a controlled environment enjoys the spike in adrenaline associated with our fight or flight response. We get the same rush without actually being in danger, and that feeling can be addictive to some. This can sometimes come with a sense of accomplishment attached. Horror is designed to take us out of what is considered normal and push us beyond our comfort zone. Confronting and overcoming our natural apprehension can be rewarding, making us feel stronger for doing so. We get to see different, threatening, some more realistic than others, situations played out in front of us. This can, in some ways, help sharpen our instincts and prepare us for confronting real-life dangers and overcoming real-life obstacles. Learning to conquer discomfort is as important a skill as learning to assess potential threats. Horror serves as a viable tool to this end. To wrap things up, when it comes down to it, fear is mostly a good thing, at least when it's managed properly. It is one of the most important emotions we can feel. The key is to learn how to use it and not let it consume you. There are a number of coping methods besides watching horror movies or allowing oneself to be scared half to death by rides or costume strangers. Of course, those aren't for everyone. So find out what works best for you. Seek professional help if need be. Remember, there's nothing wrong with being afraid sometimes. Regardless of the false bravado that some try to hide behind, it is a normal, natural thing that everyone experiences. Each of us must confront our own fears, must come face to face with them. How we handle our fears will determine where we go with the rest of our lives, to experience adventure or to be limited by the fear of it. Judy Blume. Next episode, we will be moving on to discuss psychopomps, the animals, spirits, angels, and even deities who escort the souls of the newly deceased from this world to the next. For now, Assalamu alaikum and Namaste. Peace be with you until we meet again. Thanks for listening to me as I've nerded out about stories and beliefs. Join me next week as I journey down the rabbit hole once again by subscribing and listening wherever podcasts are available. Leave me a comment on iTunes. 5-star reviews are always great and help others find the podcast. Always, you can email me at faithandfear@gmail.com. And lastly, share with others you feel may enjoy or get something out of these conversations. Who knows, maybe then we'll be one step closer to glimpsing the true nature of faith and fear. Music courtesy of Pixabay.com.